Hello, this is Joseph Evaldi of the Joseph Evaldi Podcast. And tonight, this afternoon, or whatever time it is, we have a special guest on the podcast. We did a recording of an interview with the Jobber. And we're going to see how this is. We got new technology. We're trying something different. We're interviewing somebody and we're recorded and then we're putting it on the show. Just a new take. So let's take it to Joe Vexter, Ace reporter, who will be a part of the show called Yesterday's News with Joe Vexter and Uncle Kurt, due coming September. Take it away. Hi, I am Joe Vexter, Ace reporter, and I am looking for a news story. Oh, where can I find a news story? I am still searching. Maybe I will find a story. Here is a story. It is from Entertainment. It is called Hemingway Story from 1956, published for first time. Hello by Hello Italy. This is from New York, AP. The themes and trappings are familiar for an Ernest Hemingway narrative, narrative wartime, talk of books, and wine and the scars of battle. Paints a picture of how things were back then. But the story itself has been little known beyond the scholarly community for decades. A room on the garden side, if I said that right, written in 1956 is excuse me, is being published for the first time. The brief World War II era fiction appears this week in the summer edition of the Strand magazine, a literary quarterly which has released obscure works by Raymond Chandler, John Steinbeck, and others. It was a popular time back then. A lot of known writers, a lot of stuff. Hemingway's deep love for his favorite city, as it is just emerging from Nazi occupation, is on full display as the hallmarks of his prose. I would like to be there to see some of his work, but other obligations will prevent me to be there. I'm gonna skim you through. He also said, I also loved France. I'm gonna read some of this. I did it to save the lives of people who had not hired out to fight, Nara explains. there was that, and the fact that I learned to know and love an infantry division and wish to serve it in any useful way I could. I also love France and Spain next to my own country. I loved other countries too, but the debt was paid. And I thought that the account was closed, not knowing the accounts are never closed. Very interesting words from Ernest Hemingway in 1956. And that article was Hemingway's story from 1956, published for the first time. Hemingway was a good writer, and I am going to take it to Joseph Evaldi, and then we'll go to commercial break. I am Joseph Evaldi of the Joseph Evaldi Podcast. I'm gonna cut to a commercial break, and then when I get back, I'm going to cut to the interview with the Jabber, recorded.
The fans look forward to wrestling, and they are part of the show. It was just yesterday on WWE Raw that the wave broke out on TV, and they stopped wrestling. The fans are as much of the production as the wrestlers. It is us who influence the direction of wrestling, and they say what they wanted. I remember when I was at a WCW event, and I started a Sid chant to beat up an opponent. He was a heel at the time, but my chant made him a face, and it was heard on cable TV. I guess then I influenced the crowd at that time, and the crowd reacted. Crowds have been known to influence the direction of where the storylines go. At times, the wrestling promotion likes to swerve the crowd, an unanticipated twist in the storyline. Crowds are a part of the show. However, the production makes the show. It's the people at the concession stands. It's the people who control the lighting and the camera work. Through the course of this audiobook, you will see the change in wrestling, of how it is operated and how it is produced, and how it influenced society as a whole. Now, as Vince put it, they compete with all forms of entertainment as society changes and try to stay relevant. You have the traditional fans, but if you're my age, of 36, the last wrestlers still wrestling on a main stage from the 1980s era are Sting and The Undertaker. This is a statement of the times, and like every era, it changes.
That was The Evolution of the Square Circle, the production of professional wrestling, written by Joseph Evaldi, narrated by Dick Thomas. Back to the podcast. Okay, I am Joseph Evaldi and I am back. I am going to cut to the interview. I am speaking loud because there is noise outside and that noise has got to be tuned out, so I'm going to take it further away. Hello, this is Joseph Evaldi of the Joseph Evaldi Podcast. Recording right now, and I'm ready to do an interview. I'm not going live as usual, but tonight we have a very special guest, and he calls himself by the name of Jabber. He is an artist and musician, and he also deals a lot with inspiration and self-help. And with further ado, Jabber, please introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Mr. Evaldi, thank you. I've been looking forward to being on your show.
Thank you. So, what brings you on the show tonight? We have this show coming, which I heard. So, what's the show gonna be all about?
Well, it's inspiration all the way, Joe. Every time we get together, we go off on tangents, and we're like, let's do it. It's inspiration all the way, staying motivated, staying charged up, staying revved up, staying ready for life.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I remember, way back when, in the roots of when I started to do this podcast, I was leaning towards inspiration, but it never really quite went that direction. And then you kept on coming towards me and saying, we gotta do it.
Yeah, we have. The thing with you're a man of so many talents. You're doing so many things. You're writing your books. You're doing your blog. You're doing your art. I always just your inspiration on foot. How else do I say it?
Yeah, I go through my own fair share of battles too. I mean, I was going through my own dilemma on Monday, but with good friends and good support, I got through it.
Definitely. And that kind of brings me to the thing that's been on my mind for the last few days, and it's burnout, because it's something that I see and it's something that I fight against. And I love my energy right now.
Yeah.
I've actually been on vacation for over a week, and I'm so rested. And I'm telling you, I'm ready to get back at so many things. I've been doing, a lot of things here and there, but I think it's more mindset, even over time off.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
Burnout, yes.
I agree. I've been to burnout many times.
Yes.
Yeah, let me talk about that burnout thing for a second, because I've been there before. I've burned the candle on how many ends, and then how do you come back from that?
I think the main thing I look at, I feel we all get our inspiration and our identity from our earliest years. And for me, I always try to remember those younger years, because those are positive years. The years when you want to achieve so many things, and you have your initial dreams that you need to chase. And so whenever I find myself getting burnt out, I tap into I don't want to say former self, because it's one life and it's continuous, but I think that early leg of the journey, this early cycle, before life comes in and tries to weigh you down. And for some reason, that inspiration is very motivational for me.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, how we go into many different lives with that, because I know a friend of my podcast would say that we go through different stages, and it's like a new day every time through it. And it's like every day is a new journey, I would say.
Yes, definitely.
And
I'm big on folk tales. Like sometimes there's things that what would grandma say, what would grandpa say, and there's certain